So unlike Hollywood, we don't judge the regular American citizen who supported Trump here. I mean, sometimes I judge a little bit. I'm a human. I'm imperfect. But we're not condescending. We don't believe we're big and special. It's just always been frustrating to me to watch these shows where it's celebrities praising other celebrities. Do you ever get sick of that? I certainly do. And not only that, but like Meryl Streep, she's like weeping and crying. We're the most vilified people in the country right now. I'm going to go home to my $1 million mansion. She's wearing, who knows how much that dress cost that she had. She's adored by millions of people in this country. She's getting an award that the nation is watching her receive. And somehow she's a victim. Somehow she's a victim. I'm sorry. I think the real victims are the everyday American people who stood up and want to change and voted for Trump because they wanted that change. Now, I didn't support Trump in the primaries. I voted for him in the election. I have a lot of problems with Trump, but I'm just saying, I'm not going to buy this whole victim mentality by Hollywood. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I am your host, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason, broadcasting live right here in Orlando, Florida on News Radio 102.5 WFLA, and also broadcasting live on the Beyond Reason Radio app. And we have Tom Benson, who is joining us as well, producing for us. And how are you, Tom, this morning?
I'm doing fine. It's wintertime, but,
It's a little bit warmer than it was yesterday.
It's about 16 degrees warmer as of right now, yeah.
And it's supposed to get warmer. So I might be able to wear shorts by the end of the week again.
Well, we can all look forward to that.
Yes, I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that. So we have a lot to get to in today's show, a lot of Beyond Reason politics to get to, and we want to talk about that as well. By the way, just a programming note, I also produce Good Morning Orlando, as you all know, and I hosted the show the past few times and a week ago, and there was breaking news this morning in Orlando of an officer who was shot and killed. Then another officer was killed in an accident looking for the suspect, and really unfortunate. We are going to have Bud will be back tomorrow, and we are going to have John Mina, Officer John Mina, head of the Orlando Police Department, on tomorrow morning to talk about the latest with that. Still a breaking story. They're still looking for the suspect. So we'll have the latest with that tomorrow morning, and we'll talk more about the ramifications of that as well. Just an unfortunate tragedy. One thing I want to start with today. Don't worry. Later on in the hour, probably we're going to get to a Trump Twitter update, a Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update, because that's always a lot of fun, and he's put out a lot of stuff today already.
He was relatively quiet, though, during the Golden Globes. He must have been busy doing something.
Yeah, but then afterwards.
Oh, he made up for it.
He probably wasn't watching because nobody was watching that. Apparently, I didn't watch it live, but apparently it was not very good from what I heard.
I just don't like to watch the awards, any award show anymore. First of all, with the music, the Grammys, I'm out of touch. I'm out of the demo.
Yeah, I'm kind of out of the demo, too, with a lot of that, to be honest.
And these people are all truly in a bubble. They're in their own little world, and I don't know how they can possibly relate to Joe Sixpack.
Yeah, exactly. That is a good point. They are definitely in their own little world. So someone who he's kind of in a bubble, but that's because governments have forced him into a bubble. He's not allowed to really go anywhere. That's Julian Assange. He is the WikiLeaks founder. He's the one pointing out all this stuff with Russian hacking. There was an intelligence report that came out. It was offered to Trump. It was offered to Obama. Then they offered an unclassified version of that intelligence report. And I'm going to comment a little bit on that. It was very short what they gave to the public. It was more like a press release. And there were some things that I didn't expect to be in there. All the focus of this has been on Russian hacking into the DNC, the hacking, the cyber attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, the report had very little to do with that. I mean, it mentioned it, but that was not the main substance of their problems with Russia trying to influence the election. And I found that very fascinating,
Now,
to be honest.
Who's they? The Democratic National Committee? Is that who you mean?
No, well, the intelligence report was brought out by the CIA and the NSA and the FBI. It was a joint intelligence report effort. They gave it to Obama, they gave it to Trump, and they talked to the Senate. They had this hearings in the Senate,
Sure.
and they made their conclusions that Russia was involved in the hacking, that Russia tried to influence the election, and that Russia tried to help Trump win.
But there was much more to the hacking than just that, is what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying is in the report, the hacking was very little to do with the report.
Oh, okay.
The report had much more to do with other ways Russia tried to influence the election.
Exactly.
A lot of it with fake news.
Oh.
A lot of stuff in the report dealing with their Russian news outlets and Russian propaganda. Very little of it had to do with how the Russians hacked into the DNC and if that had any influence on the election. So I'm going to comment on that in just a sec. And by the way, I posted this on Facebook the other day. Yesterday actually, but Rachel Maddow had some comments as well. We're going to get to her comments. She basically called Trump a liar, and I watched it, and he didn't lie. There was no lie. She made a big deal out of nothing. She's stretching. They're trying to find something. And by the way, Tom Benson, you pointed out to me when we were talking about this off the air the other day, or I think this morning actually, Rachel Maddow, I did not see this, but you said Rachel Maddow was asked what she would ask Donald Trump if she did an interview with Donald Trump.
If she had the opportunity to interview Donald Trump as president, what would be the first question she would ask? And the question was, would you put me in a concentration camp or anyone I know?
You want to talk about Beyond Reason.
Where does that come from?
It's insane. It's insane. They called Republicans scaremongers back when they were criticizing Obama and all these names. What is more scaremongering than that?
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. But back to the whole Russian thing, Julian Assange is still denying it. He is still saying that Russia was not the source of the leak. And he is very insistent on it. And in fact, he talked to the Today Show this morning. There's audio of that here. And this is what Assange said to them this morning.
It does not have the structure of intelligence report. It does not have the structure of a presidential daily brief. It is, frankly, quite embarrassing, I think, to the reputation of the U.S. intelligence services to be putting out something that claims to be a report like that. This is a press release. It is clearly designed for political effect.
So I will agree with them on one thing. It was basically a press release. It was not really a thorough report. It was basically, now you can argue, did it have a political effect or not? Was it intended political effect? Maybe, possibly. I mean, there's probably people in the intelligence community who don't like Trump and want to put this out there. But, by the way, is Assange a robot? He sounds like a robot, does he not? He sounds almost like one of those GPS things or something.
You know, he's stuck over in that embassy over in, what is he, Norway, Sweden? I can't remember where. And he's been there for months, if not a year.
Well, I want to say, I need to look that up. I want to say the embassy's actually in Britain, but it's the Ecuadorian embassy that he's stuck in.
Talk about cabin fever. He's got to have it. You know?
Oh, I know. I know. There's no doubt about it. But he doesn't even sound human when you listen to him. So it's just very strange on that. I really don't trust him.
I think he's an odd-looking gentleman also.
He's odd-looking. He's odd-speaking. He's just odd. And I really don't trust him. He's a very swarmy guy. I don't trust the Russians either. I really have no doubt that the Russians tried to influence the election.
Whenever I run into characters like Assange or Putin, for that matter, I try to imagine what they were like as 10-year-olds. Because I can't imagine them having a normal childhood, you know?
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I wonder if Putin was a bully back then as well.
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It probably was good training for his future. But I don't trust the Russians. I don't trust Assange. But I also don't trust the Democrats who are trying to push this to delegitimize Trump's election. there's a lot of things about this I don't trust. But when I looked at the intelligence report, I was expecting, I have it right here, it's not very long, it's just like 7 pages or something. I was expecting more evidence of Russia actually trying to hack into the DNC. Mm-hmm. And they talked about it. They gave very little evidence. But most of it, the majority of the report was actually about Russian television, RT. You see videos of it online. It's broadcast in the United States. And they determined in this intelligence report that that is basically a propaganda machine for Russia.
Oh, sure.
And that it was their intention to influence this election and influence it for Trump.
Does the report give any instances of what fake news was generated?
Let's see here. It actually, let's see. There's a bunch of different stuff. Here's one. From August to November 2012, RT ran numerous reports on alleged U.S. election fraud and voting machine vulnerabilities, contending that the U.S. election results cannot be trusted and do not reflect the popular will. Mm-hmm. So they tell that as a fake news story that was put out by Russia to make us distrust the election. And see, I think that was their goal. I don't think it was necessarily to get Trump elected. Now, they hate Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton has bashed them in the past.
Yeah.
But I think the goal was to promote distrust in the system.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, they succeeded in that, in promoting distrust. Do I think they succeeded in getting Trump elected? I have seen no evidence that the hacking, that the WikiLeaks, that RT really had an effect on Trump getting elected.
Right.
When you look at the polls and you look at the trends that happened during the election and you ask people, and I do this for a living, so I ask Trump supporters, I talk to them all the time. Every time I asked them, it was never stuff like that. It was always, he isn't bought. He's not a politician. He's, he's different. He says it like it is. It was always, a lot of it was things he was actually saying. And who he was, the idea of him being a businessman and not a politician and stuff like that. It was never, oh, well, WikiLeaks said this, so I'm not going to vote for him.
Well, you also have to wonder how many people actually watch RT at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess the stuff gets spread out on the internet, and there's always stuff like that on social media and stuff, fake news. I understand that. And,
but the audience has got to be limited.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
There's no evidence that I've seen in any trends that had actually the Russians succeeded in influencing the public towards Trump. For one, Trump lost the popular vote by 2 million votes. So if they succeeded, it was barely. Also, Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate, and most of the polls reflected that they just didn't like Hillary Clinton. And for most of what I've seen, the only thing that happened that really trended the polls and the election in a different direction was Comey's letter. That was the main thing, was Comey's letter to Congress, the FBI director's Comey letter saying that they were going to bring up investigations on Hillary again.
That would be what, early October?
No, remember it happened like 2 weeks before. Well, yeah, it was like in middle October.
Yeah, okay.
And then he reversed it again.
Yeah.
But I've talked about this before, and maybe I'll talk about this in the next segment. I truly believe the reason why Trump won is it was a backlash against globalism. It was a backlash against globalism. People feel there's a big part of this country, and you just look at the states that he won, there's a big part of this country that feels left behind in the new economy.
Sure.
They see plants closing. They see technology changing. They see people losing their jobs, and they see healthcare premiums going up. And you have someone who comes in and he says, I'm going to bring those jobs back. I'm going to make America great again. I'm going, all these platitudes. I'm going to build a wall so immigrants stop taking your jobs. All those things, he puts those platitudes, and that's an effective message. And people, especially in those Rust Belt states, they bought into that because Hillary wasn't giving that message. I think that is the main thing that got Trump elected.
Yeah.
I do not think it's fake news or hacking.
Yeah. I would agree, yeah. And I think the Democrats just catered to too many of the special interest groups out there.
Yeah, it was usual politics, and they were facing an opponent that was not usual politics.
Right.
He was a movement. It was more about the idea of him, the idea of what he stood for. It was a movement. And he rode that movement and won the election, and that's a very hard thing to stop when it happens. It's kind of similar to Obama. Obama was very, very similar. It was a movement based on platitudes and ideas. He was a different kind of candidate, a different kind of, all the same similar things. Mm-hmm. And that's a very powerful thing. What do you guys think out there? You can call on the show, by the way, 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. We have a lot more to talk about this. And then I have some Beyond Reason audio from Rachel Maddow that you're going to have to listen to as well. 407-916-5400. This is Beyond Reason Radio. Yes, this is another edition of Orlando Smart Talk Radio. Beyond Reason Radio doing a lot more shows this year live on News Radio 102.5 WFLA as much as I can. The best way to keep up when I'm doing the show is to send me a friend request on Facebook. Just search Michael Yaffee on Facebook, send a friend request, and I will accept it. Or just like the Beyond Reason Radio Facebook page, and you can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. So, by the way, we are broadcasting live on Facebook as well. Facebook Live. Go to WFLA Orlando Facebook site. Go to Beyond Reason Radio Facebook or my personal Facebook, and you can see the video as well. Make sure to check out the podcast if you missed any of the show, and then push that convenient share button to share with your friends, because I have no big advertising budget. All I have is your shares, so that's just the honest truth. I just got a text in from someone. You can text to 23680. He said, does the report say anything about the American news media, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, Megyn Kelly, trying to influence the vote for Hillary? No, I guess not. But see, that's the point. Even if the RT was out there trying to do it, it probably had minimal effect compared to Hollywood and all these other media outlets trying to influence it for Hillary, which they obviously did. There was so much hatred out there for Trump. I'd never seen anything like it. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, when you talk about what Rachel Maddow said, when you talk about what Hollywood's talking about now, I have never, ever seen anything like it, at least in my lifetime. So I found this article just now over the break from the Washington Post. It's by Mark Thiessen, and he actually brings out some interesting stats about the whole WikiLeaks thing. Mm-hmm. The headline says the Russia hacking report is an indictment of Obama, not Trump. It's a pretty bold statement. This is what he says, though, at the beginning of it. He says, let's be clear. Hillary Clinton did not lose the 2016 election because of Russian meddling or WikiLeaks. And here is the proof. WikiLeaks began publishing its trove of Democrat National Committee emails on July 22nd, 2016, 3 days before the DNC. By then, Hillary Clinton was already in a deep hole with American voters. Long before WikiLeaks, Americans had concluded that Clinton was a congenital liar. A CNN poll taken July 13 to 16 found that 65% of voters said Clinton was neither honest nor trustworthy, and 57% would not be proud of her as president. On July 16th, this is all before WikiLeaks. It's all before that stuff came out. July 16th, CBS News poll showed similar results. 67% of voters said Clinton was not honest or trustworthy. And little wonder by then Clinton had lied so often for so many years about so many things that most Americans no longer believed a word she said. So, and he goes over so many polls here before the WikiLeaks happened that show that Russia, it had very little influence on that. He does argue later, though, he said, did Russia attempt, and there's the big word, attempt, to influence our election? Of course it did. And he's saying the report is right. Of course they attempted to do it, but there's no evidence that they actually affected it. He said, so why would Putin be so brazen? Simple. He knew that under President Obama there would be zero consequences for his action. And then he goes over the history of what Putin has done. This is a great piece from the Washington Post. I'll post it on my social media sites as well if you like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. So it said, after all, Putin watched as Obama drew his red line in Syria, warning that President Bashar al-Assad would face military action if he moved or used chemical weapons on his people. And that not only it failed to enforce it, but also turned to Putin to give him a face-saving way out. Putin then invaded Ukraine, annexed Crimea, and began to arm Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine with advanced surface-to-air missiles, and watched as the Ukrainian government appealed to Obama for weapons to fight his neo-Soviet aggression. But instead of sending RPGs, Obama agreed to send MREs, meals ready to eat.
Sure.
This goes on. There's tons of stuff that Obama did not do. This is why it's a condemnation of Obama more than it is of Hillary or Trump. Putin then set up Russian air bases in Syria and used them to bomb a secret base of operations for elite U.S. and British special operation forces, as well as CIA outposts housing facilities of agency-backed Syrian fighters. Again, with no consequences. After those and countless other embarrassing shows of American presidential weakness, Putin knew that Obama would not have the stomach to impose consequences on Russia for attempting to interfere in our elections. And, he's doing some of it now, but it's too late, and it's very little. It's very little.
And also think back to when the Iranians had our U.S. Sailors in custody.
Oh, yeah?
Nothing happened. No retaliation or consequences at all.
Oh.
Just a big thank you from John Kerry to the Iranians for returning our men after they were humiliated in propaganda films.
Speaking of Iran.
Yes.
There was a report out that I was just reading. Apparently, you know what we're doing to Iran right now? We're sending them uranium.
Really?
I'm not joking.
Is there any left? I thought Hillary sent it all to Russia.
Yeah, it's a good point. I am not joking. Let me pull up that story here. I had that story. I might have to pull it up in the next set. Oh, here it is. Obama's final gift it's from the Daily Wire. Obama's final gift, uranium headed to Iran. He said, it says, unsatisfied with stoking the fiery cauldron of Islamic fundamentalism with his weak-kneed response during his 8-year tenure, Barack Obama has now enabled Iran, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism, to speed ever closer to the successful attainment of nuclear weapons. The AP reports the move to send Iran the uranium from Russia. So we were talking about him not doing anything with Russia. Mm-hmm. We're talking about him not doing anything with Iran. And we're bashing Trump. Is supposedly to curry favor with Iran so it will remain committed to the nuclear deal it negotiated with the West.
Please, this is appeasement.
Oh, it's total appeasement.
Yeah.
That's exactly what 100% appeasement. Not only that, but Iran has already failed to meet a lot of the standards in the deal. So the U.S. has gave them exemptions to the deal already. Mm-hmm. You're just glad to see him go, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
407-916-5400. Speaking of, well, this person's not going. Unfortunately, she's staying around for a while. We're going to get to some audio that just really frustrated me from Rachel Maddow, because I got so many people, so many liberals, and even some Republicans say, watch Rachel Maddow. She's so great. Watch Rachel Maddow. Because I really don't watch a lot of these cable shows. I use this thing called the internet and reading.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a millennial, the product of my generation. But I watched an episode, and yeah.
I think she's very smart. What I don't like about her is her condescending attitude.
Yeah, she's not as bad as Keith Olbermann.
Oh, no.
I'll give her that.
Yeah.
So if that's a compliment, that's about the biggest compliment I can give her. 479165400, text to 23680. You can also send me a tweet at Beyond Reason R. This is Beyond Reason Radio.
If you miss any of the show, you can download the Beyond Reason podcast on iTunes.
Yes, this is another edition of Beyond Reason Radio. We are on tonight 8 to 10 p.m., but if you miss any of the show, make sure to check out the podcast anywhere that podcasts are available. And you can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. I just posted the story I talked about in the last segment, why Obama is more at fault for Russian interference than anyone. So I get all these people all the time because I guess she's the one really big leftist voice out there on cable news. I mean, I don't know who else is there. Keith Olbermann's not on cable news anymore.
Well, compared to everybody else on MSNBC, she gets a bump in the ratings. No one else does. It's all flatline.
Well, I guess that whole station, nobody else watches. I mean, who watches? Is Al Sharpton still on MSNBC?
Sunday mornings he has a show now.
Do you see if Brian Williams has a show like 11 p.m. now?
Yeah.
They just threw him at the end of the night.
Do you know that somebody we know very well had an audition week with MSNBC back in 2005? Do you know who that might be?
Bud Hedinger?
Yes, that's right.
He had an audition with MSNBC?
A full week, yeah.
Now, do you think they didn't take him because he's too conservative?
They were a different operation then. I think they were more straight ahead news at that time.
You think they would have turned him? You think they would have turned him leftist if he got the job?
Right.
You think so now? No.
It was shortly after that, about 2006 or 2007, where they went the counter to Fox News and became very liberal in leaning.
Yeah, you know what the MS stands for?
Yes,
Microsoft.
That's right. They had a partnership.
Isn't that crazy? I don't think they do anymore, do they?
No, they don't. But
they just kept the name.
Well, you're stuck with it. You're branded that. Why change it? It's
like just call it MS, or they could call it NBC News Network or something.
It's like a lot of radio stations who change their call letters. If they have heritage call letters, they throw them out because they changed their format. They should keep them anyway because that's what people know them as.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, I get all these people telling me to watch Rachel Maddow. Oh, she's so great, so fantastic. So I watched this one segment with her, and I'm already frustrated because she's stretching. And, I'm not the most positive person about Trump, but if someone's going to do what she does, I mean, she made it seem like Trump did the most awful thing. And by the way, she builds it up. I'm only playing part of it here. She builds it up for like 10 minutes in this segment, which also because I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, oh man, maybe this is gonna be something good. Maybe he really did lie. And then when they came out with it, I'm like, that really?
She has a lot of carrots and not much in the way of a payoff.
It really was in this instance. So here is the audio of Rachel Maddow, who says Trump lied.
That same highly classified assessment that went to Obama yesterday went to the president-elect today, this morning. And then here's the thing. Right after that, right after he came out of that briefing where he received the highly classified version of this, he put out a written statement about what he learned in the briefing. And he blatantly and overtly, bluntly, simply lied.
No, he didn't.
About what is in this report.
He didn't say what was in the report.
Right before this report got publicly released, so we could check for ourselves and see that he was lying. I have to say, I don't get weirded out by that much stuff in the news, but this kind of puts a shiver down my spine. Just look at this. It's very clear. This was the statement incoming president put out after he got the highly classified version of this report.
So frustrating.
And again, the public version that we all have now, that we can all see, its conclusions are identical to those in the highly classified report. He gets briefed on the classified version of this. He comes out and he makes this statement, quote, President-elect Donald J. Trump released the following statement at the conclusion of meeting with intelligence community leaders. Here's the statement. While Russia, China, and other countries, outside groups, and people are consistently trying to break through the cyber infrastructure of our governmental institutions, businesses, and organizations, including the Democrat National Committee, quote, there was absolutely no effect on the outcome of the election. So he's saying, I just got briefed on this report. I just met with the director of national intelligence and the director of the CIA and the director of the FBI. They've just given me their report, and I can tell you, the American people, having read this report, having been briefed by our intelligence community, I can now tell you, now that I've seen this report and I've been told what's in it, there was absolutely no effect on the outcome of the election.
Because there wasn't.
That's what he tells us. Well, here's what's actually in the report.
There was no effect.
Quote, we did not make an assessment of the impact that Russian activities had on the outcome of the election.
Okay.
So, our president-elect is lying to us.
What? Tom Benson, can you help me out here, please? Where was the lie?
Well, the lie was, as she sees it, is that Trump said something was in the report that she feels wasn't in the report.
He never said that.
However, oh, really? Well, the other thing is James Clapper last week did say there was no no influence as far as changing the vote tallies in any of the voting machines.
Here is Trump's statement
okay.
that Rachel is pointing out here. While Russia, China, other countries, outside groups, and people are consistently trying to break through the cyber infrastructure of our governmental institution, business, and organizations, including the Democrat National Committee, there was absolutely no effect on the outcome of the election, including the fact that there was no tampering whatsoever with voting machines. There were attempts to hack the Republican National Committee, which I talked about on this show before, but the RNC had strong hacking defenses, and the hackers were unsuccessful.
I see, yeah.
So did he ever say that the intelligence community said there was no effect?
No, that was his conclusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was his conclusion.
Yeah.
Fact. Did the intelligence community come out and say there was an effect on the election? No, they did not. So fact, they have no evidence that there was an effect on the outcome of the election. So Trump's conclusion, based on the fact that there's no evidence that there was an effect on the election, was that there was no effect on the election. Now, if you disagree with that conclusion, just say you disagree. That's fine. If you disagree with his conclusion, whatever. I'm sure she does, because she's still mad because her girl Hillary lost. But her whole rant was about Trump lying. He lied to the American people. Where was the lie? He did not lie. There was no lie. He did not say that the intelligence community said that there was no evidence.
Right.
No effect.
Yeah.
He gave his own conclusion based on the information gave to him. That's not a lie. It's not. And I'm not one who always defends Trump. I really was sitting there waiting for some big bombshell to come out with Rachel. But you have to see, she's looking. She's stretching. She's looking for any little thing she can twist and turn and to make Trump out to be this bold face. And she said, did you hear that part when she's like, it sent shivers down my spine? What? Because he came up with a conclusion that you disagree with?
Might be the fact that it's January.
Yeah. 407-916-5400. So I watched. I was just like, really? This is the brilliant Rachel Maddow that everybody loves? She came up and called Trump a liar when there was no evidence that he lied. He just came up with a conclusion that you disagree with. Now, if the intelligence community said, we have proof that it affected the outcome of the election, and then Trump said, quote, the intelligence community said there's no proof, that would be a lie. But that's not what he said. You're not talking about what he actually said. By the way, he continues on in his statement. He says, whether it is our government, organizations, associations, or businesses, we need to aggressively combat and stop cyber attacks. I will appoint a team to give me a plan within 90 days of taking office. The methods, tools, and tactics we use to keep America safe should not be a public discussion that will benefit those who seek to do us harm. 2 weeks from today, I will take the oath of office, and American safety and security will be my number one priority. Of course, Rachel didn't mention that.
Of course not.
Even though, so he wants to combat cyber attacking. He admits that Russia tried to influence the election. He just concludes that it had no effect because there is absolutely no evidence that it had an effect.
That's right. I'm looking forward to his inaugural address.
Why? Because all the protests.
Well, just to see what he has to say, because it's.
I am very curious what he has to say.
Because it's going to be a formal speech, and he doesn't do much in the way of formal speeches.
So far, the most watched on television inaugural address is Reagan's first inaugural. This probably will beat that. I have a feeling, because people even who hate him are going to be watching that. All right, we have a lot more Beyond Reason stuff to get to. I'm glad I got that off my chest. I feel better. It's just, you don't understand how many people say, Rachel Maddow is so smart and she's so great. And I'm just like, really? You're not helping me want to watch her show. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R, or send me a friend request on Facebook. This is Beyond Reason Radio.
Download the iHeartRadio app and catch the Beyond Reason Radio podcast.
Yes, this is Orlando Smart Talk Radio, where we talk faith, culture, and politics every time we do this show. And we're going to be doing a lot more episodes of Beyond Reason Radio this year. Best way to get it is download the Beyond Reason Radio app in the Google Play or Apple App Store. You can follow us on TuneIn. I have a bunch of subscribers on TuneIn, on iTunes, and a lot of exciting things coming this year for Beyond Reason Radio. We are also on Facebook Live as well. Hello, everybody on Facebook Live. You can just follow Beyond Reason Radio on Facebook, like us on Facebook, or you can friend me on Facebook as well. I'm getting a couple people commenting on something, so I found the story. Do you know John McAfee? John McAfee, you ever heard of him? He's the guy who he invented the McAfee antivirus computer stuff that's out there.
Oh, McAfee. I know him as McAfee.
Did I say McAfee?
Yeah.
It is McAfee.
Yeah.
Oh, that made me seem really... I knew it was McAfee. I don't know why I said... It's, you know what it is?
He's an odd guy, too, by
McAfee. Well, he ran... I met him, actually. He ran for the Libertarian nominee. I met him at the Libertarian Convention.
Uh-huh.
I guess I was trying to make it sound like Yaffee. So I said McAfee, but it's McAfee.
Yeah.
There we go. I was trying to make it sound like Yaffee. There we go. But anyway, he came out and he said that, he's big on this stuff. And he said one of the most brilliant cybersecurity experts, he says that there's a lot of evidence that Russia didn't do it, that didn't do the hacking.
Mm-hmm.
He said the sloppiness of the alleged DNC hack by itself proves it was not organized by a nation state, and the utter nonsense presented as proof of Moscow's involvement is rather evidence of intelligence agencies being ignorant and naive. So here's the one problem with this. That, you know where he said this? He said this on the RT television network.
Wow.
So, I mean, I guess, it doesn't necessarily take away his credibility. He's a big libertarian, doesn't necessarily like Trump, ran for president, and has a lot of background in this. But the fact that he said it on the RT, and this is being promoted by Russian television, makes it takes away just a little bit of the credibility.
Authenticity. Yeah, credibility. Very good.
But I will say this. It is concerning to me when I read the intelligence report that most of it is not about the hacking. Very little of the report had to do with the hacking into the DNC. Most of it had to do with quote-unquote fake news, which is one reason why all the Democrats and Hillary came out right after the election and said, fake news is such a concern. I mean, it's all mostly to delegitimize Trump's election. But that does tell me something, that they might be wanting to come up with a conclusion, a preconceived conclusion on this, saying because they see Russia doing all this other stuff, that they think, they must be doing the hacking as well. But there's not, I don't know, I found it very odd and strange that the intelligence report that they came out with on Russia trying to influence the election was supposed to be mostly about hacking, and was not mostly about hacking. It was mostly about fake news, quote unquote, and propaganda.
Do you remember the name Seth Rich?
Yes, he was the guy. He was the guy who was killed.
Yeah, he was a 27-year-old guy who worked for the DNC. He was shot and killed as he was walking home one weekend in the neighborhood in northwest Washington.
Yes.
Now, Julian Assange at one time hinted.
Yes, I remember this.
I
think we talked about it on the show.
That he was probably the guy who did the leaking. But, I've never...
Well, he hinted that... It was weird how he hinted it, because he said, leaking can be dangerous, and then he's kind of like, look at Seth or something. Yeah. It was kind of like a weird connection, but there was some kind of hints to that, and it's very strange that that guy died.
And it was it was set up as, police thought it was a robbery, although nothing was taken.
Yeah,
nothing's ever happened since then. You haven't heard a thing about it.
Yeah, and that
it's sort of like the Vince Foster situation.
Well, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of people who believe that as well. It is very concerning. And Assange has said that it was a source within the DNC that did this hacking.
Yeah.
And then you have John Bolton, who's been kind of a voice of reason on this. He says one of the problems with blaming Russia is Russia left obvious. If Russia did it, they left obvious fingerprints, which is not usually what Russia does.
So in other words, they may have been set up.
Yeah, well, it might have been purposely meant. Yeah, it might have been purposely meant to think, oh, well, here's the fingerprint saying to Russia, because Russia doesn't usually do that. There's other times where they hacked and they didn't leave those fingerprints, and it's very hard to see. And most of what, even in the reports, most of what I've seen is that they're keeping track of what Russian intelligence community is saying more than actual evidence on the hack itself.
Mm-hmm.
And what Russian intelligence have been saying in each other's circles is that they're celebrating when Trump won. They actually thought Hillary was going to win, and they started a campaign to bash Hillary as president even before she won because they thought she was going to win. And there's a lot of talk that they did try to influence the election. Now, most of that influence could not be the hacking, but like I said, could be the propaganda, fake news, which I think really did not have an effect as well. So there's a lot of crazy things here. The problem I have with all of this is I don't trust the Democrat Party. I don't trust, James Clapper because he's an Obama shill. I don't trust Hillary Clinton. But I also do not trust Russia, and I also do not trust Assange. And Trump, it's hard to trust because he obviously has...
And a lot of us don't trust the mainstream media.
So
who can you trust?
So the only person you can't trust is me, Michael Yaffee, the voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. We have one more hour to go. We're going to move past this Russia thing because we have a lot more beyond reason topics to talk about, and one story that is so beyond reason that, of course, will leave you flabbergasted, and we'll get to that in the next hour. This is Beyond Reason Radio. I'm your host, Michael Yaffee. We'll be right back. I look inside. Yes, it is another hour of Beyond Reason Radio, where you hear your voice of reason in a world that is beyond reason. You hear your voice of truth in a world that is full of not truth, falsehoods, whatever you want to call it. This is Michael Yaffee. I am your host. I've been hosting Good Morning Orlando the past few days because Bud is sick. He will be back tomorrow. I'll be producing as well. We're going to be talking a lot about the tragic situation of a cop shot and killed in Orlando. We're going to talk to Police Chief John Mina tomorrow. We'll have all the updates on that. So check us out tomorrow on News Radio 102.5 WFLA 6 to 9 a.m. But it is time to go over what everybody, I think, is probably looking forward to. And that is the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update. Yes, the Beyond Reason. I got to come up with a theme song for this. There's just so much content. I don't know how. Yeah, how do you make that rhyme? Can you come up with something like in right now, Tom Benson?
Sure, I can come up with something. You work on that. I'll come up with something.
Okay, well, there you go. So yeah, I decided, Don Lemon, I talked about this before, but Don Lemon from CNN said if he were the news director of CNN, he would not cover Trump's tweets. Well, that's absurd. Whether you like him or not, whether you like that he's tweeting or not, he is going to be the president of the United States. What he says does matter. And a lot of the media just doesn't like how effective his tweets are. And the Democrats keep criticizing him over the tweets. Well, don't criticize him. Learn from him. Now, a lot of people criticized Obama for going on all these talk shows. And they're like, oh, that's not presidential. And I'm saying, shut up. That's what helps him win. Instead of criticizing it, learn from it and do it yourself. So that's what Trump did. And now he's using Twitter, and they're all like, oh, no, a president can't do this. A president is doing it, and it's very successful. And you might as well just learn from him. So that's my take. So I am going to go over for the past day, the past 24 hours, we'll see what Trump had on his Twitter account, the Trump Twitter updates. Yes, I did this the last couple shows, and I think we'll get a lot of response to this as well. Okay. Donald Trump said this, let's see. It says 22 hours ago. Donald Trump said this 22 hours ago. Dishonest media says Mexico won't be paying for the wall if they pay a little later so the wall can be built more quickly. Media is fake. So he's going after the media again. This isn't exactly shocking. But we'll see what happens. I don't really care. As long as they build the wall, I don't really care. If Mexico pays for it now, later, whatever. Just build the thing. Build a fence, whatever. Just secure the border, for God's sake. So, hit or miss on that tweet. Maybe a one Yaffee thumbs up there. I get annoyed at the whole media is fake thing. Because what media? I mean, I don't know. You look like you want to say something, Tom.
Well, I was going to say, first thing that comes to mind is on Twitter is tweets, right?
Yes. Uh-oh. Did you come up with a theme song for us for the Trump Twitter?
I'm a tweet with a bird in a gilded cage. Tweet
yes.
My name, but I don't know my age. I don't have to worry, and that is that. I'm safe in here from that old putty cat.
Tweety bird.
Yeah. Okay, so you got to save that. So that will be our official intro to the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update that we do, that we're going to do on this show as a regular thing. A lot of people on the Facebook Live like that, by the way. Good work. I like that. Okay, next tweet by Trump in the last 24 hours. 14 hours ago, Trump said, Rupert Murdoch is a great guy who likes me much better as a very successful candidate than he ever did as a very successful developer. So, okay.
Well, Donald Trump is also going to be good ratings getter for
he already has been.
Murdoch. Yeah, and he will continue to be for the next 4 years. You betcha.
Yeah. So, there we go. I don't really know what brought that about. Do you know what brought that about? I have no idea.
Mutual admiration.
He just all of a sudden randomly comments Rupert Murdoch out of nowhere. So that was kind of interesting. So, okay, next tweet, and this is the one that, of course, got all the attention today because I talked about on the morning show, Meryl Streep criticized Trump, basically saying she's a victim now and being vilified by America, her and the press, and how much of a victim she is and how we should all feel sorry for her in Hollywood as they, walk around in their thousands of dollar dresses and go home in their limousines and their giant mansions, and we're supposed to feel sorry for them. But this is what Donald Trump said in response, because of course he's going to fight back. This is Donald Trump we're talking about. He cannot just let something go.
Well, that's just it. For the next 4 years, the opposition's going to be trying to bait him.
That's true.
And he should realize he's above all that now. He doesn't need to react to that. I know, because
it's not going to happen.
He wants to win everything.
There is no way that's going to happen. And people love it. I mean, I hate to say it, but people love it. This is what he said. Meryl Streep, one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood, doesn't know me but attacked last night at the Golden Globes. She is a Hillary flunky who lost big. For the 100th time, I never mocked a disabled reporter. Would never do that, but simply showed him groveling when he totally changed a 16-year-old story that he had written in order to make me look bad. Just more very dishonest media. So there we go. He tries to defend himself. I don't know. He kind of looked like he was mocking that disabled reporter. I'm not going to lie there. He's trying to defend himself, but he goes after Meryl Streep as one of the most overrated actresses in Hollywood. I don't know. I can't really think. What is a good movie she's in? Because people love her, but maybe I've heard that she used to be really good, and lately she's okay.
She was. I'm trying to remember. Was she in Sophie's Choice back 15 years or so ago?
I don't know.
I'll have to
look. Maybe.
look it up.
I don't know, but they do love her in Hollywood. They really do. So, Okay, next Trump tweet. He didn't tweet as much as he has the past few days. We'll get to this next Trump tweet here on the Trump Twitter update. This is a big story, and this is something I'm probably going to talk about. Somebody put on the Facebook line, Bridges of Madison County. I guess that was one of her big movies. I don't know. I just remember her from The Devil Wears Prada. So was that one of her big hits, The Devil? There you go. That's evidence that it was not. It's just like, I don't know, some comedy or something. So this is a big story that I actually want to talk about later in the show if we have time. Trump said it's finally happening. Fiat Chrysler just announced plans to invest $1 billion in Michigan and Ohio plants, adding 2,000 jobs. This after Ford said last week that it will expand in Michigan and U.S. instead of building $1 billion plant in Mexico. Thank you, Ford and Fiat Chrysler. So, just so you don't know, Fiat Chrysler did announce that they are going to be building a new plant in Michigan. Apparently, they already had plans to do this way before Trump was ever elected, but they are announcing to do it. And the only thing that concerns me is all these CEOs, they are afraid of Trump. And a lot of people think that's a good thing. I don't think it's the role of a president to be getting involved in individual business decisions. But the reason why they're announcing this so publicly is because they're afraid of the PR backlash from Trump. That's why they're doing it. That's the only reason that concerns me. Now, I do like what Fiat Chrysler said. They said the reason why they're doing this, well, they said they've already planning on doing this, but they said they are encouraged by the economic environment that will happen under a Trump administration. I'm totally fine with that. That's great. If we can create an economic environment that is pro-business, I have no problem with that. Now, Trump also talked with a Chinese business leader. We'll get to that later in the show as well, where he said he was promoting creating business in China. And there's some hypocrisy in that one that we'll get to as well. And the last tweet of Trump on his Twitter account is an old picture with Nancy and Ronald Reagan. So
I saw that.
So Trump, yeah, he's shaking Reagan's hand, and Nancy Reagan is there.
And they autographed the photo for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's trying to, look at me, I'm like Reagan. Yay, I guess. He was also endorsed by Nixon, practically. Did you hear about that?
No.
Trump received a letter from Nixon 30 years ago saying Nixon was telling Trump he should run for office and that he would win.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the endorsed. That might bring a curse on his administration. I'm just saying. But there you go. 407-916-5400. Text to 23680. This has been the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update. You need to play you should play the Tweety thing. Did you already lose it? Did you already close it out? You should play it one more time just because I like it.
I'm a tweet whistle bird in a
Yes, the Beyond Reason Trump Twitter update.
Tweet is my name, but I don't know my age. I don't have to worry, and that is that. I'm safe in here from that old putty cat.
So there we go. It's been the Trump Beyond Reason Twitter update. In the next segment, I want to get to what's going on in Congress right now. A lot of things going on in Congress. Apparently, the Democrats are now the party of no. Is that because they're racist? 407-916-5400. This is Beyond Reason Radio.
Listen to the latest episodes of Beyond Reason. Download the podcast at Spreaker.com.
Yes, this is another edition of Orlando Smart Talk Radio, where we talk faith, culture, and politics on every episode of Beyond Reason Radio. I am your voice of reason, your voice of truth in a world that is beyond reason. I thank you all for joining me today on this show. But by the way, I got a comment from Octavio on Facebook Live. You can join me on Facebook Live right now. Just friend me on Facebook. Search Michael Yaffee, friend me on Facebook. He says it's mercantilism, not capitalism. Talking about Trump getting involved in individual businesses. He says, how can conservatives call themselves free market capitalists when they support these big government interference with business? I actually agree with that. I've actually been very critical of Trump getting involved with these businesses. The fact that the CEOs have to call Trump concerns me because they're afraid of Trump, what Trump's going to do. It's not his role as president to do that. So I would agree that. Now, if a company decides that they believe Trump and his administration and Congress is going to create an economic environment that will be better for business, pro-growth, I have no problem with that. But just as long as it's not the government directly getting involved with business. So you can comment on that as well. 407-916-5400. Okay. So the Democrats on Capitol Hill are all of a sudden, they're the party of no, I think. You know, I thought the Republicans, I keep hearing how the Republicans are the party of no. Well, now the Democrats apparently are the party of no. Here's the report from Fox News talking about the struggle with the confirmation hearings between Republicans and Democrats. Here it is.
It's expected to be a very busy week on Capitol Hill. Before getting started, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell met with President-elect Trump, and then McConnell spoke with reporters.
President-elect and I had a good meeting about the Senate agenda, which, of course, includes confirming the cabinet appointments.
Senate Democrats are complaining the pace is too quick, with 9 of Mr. Trump's nominees likely to have confirmation hearings this week. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer spoke on the Senate floor about his concerns.
President-elect Trump's nominees pose particularly difficult ethics and conflict of interest challenges. They come, many of them, from enormous wealth. Many have vast holdings in stocks, and very few have experience in government.
On Capitol Hill, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
So, all of a sudden, Chuck Schumer, Obama's confirmation hearings were actually smooth sailing with his cabinet picks. In both administrations, anybody. It was always smooth sailing. The Republicans approved everything. He got 2 Supreme Court nominees in who were very, very liberal. So, except for the last one, because, we don't want to sway the whole court, and plus it was an election year, which makes sense to me. But he had a lot of different confirmations. That was smooth sailing. Well, now all of a sudden, because we heard this for 8 years, the Republicans are the party of no. A lot of people are saying, well, why are they doing this to Obama? This is unprecedented. They're racist. That's why it's a secret racism, and they just don't want to back the black president. Anyone who reads history, anyone who knows history, knows that that's silly. You know what this is? It's called politics. That's how politics works.
And it's also part of checks and balances.
Exactly. The whole point of our system and the way the Constitution was put in place was to make it difficult to accomplish things too easily. Because it was supposed to be a limited government with limited powers. They didn't want Congress to be able to take away liberty of the American people too easily. So they had checks and balances to prevent these certain things. But it's happened right now. The reason why Congress is so contentious is because we are a very divided country. Because we're a very divided country. That means Congress is very divided. It's just the reality of it. So Congress is really just a reflection on the American people being a very divided country. So there is going to be gridlock. Now, I personally like gridlock because that means they're taking away less of my liberty and my money. But the fact is, that's how politics has worked. There has been times in the past as well where Republicans and Democrats were fighting it hard. All you have to do is read about Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson, after World War I, tried desperately to get the League of Nations ratified in the U.S. Senate. He couldn't get it done. He was the president, a war president, and he could not accomplish that. Was it because Republicans were racist back then? No. There's just ideological differences right now that are dividing this country, and it makes it very difficult for Congress to get along because those ideological lines are very different. Now, it just seems like they usually get along anyways in the end and spend more of our money, like I've said before. So we've heard for so long that the Republicans were the party of no. Actually, here's audio of Obama. This is from 2010 at a speech in Philadelphia where he said the very thing, the Republicans are just the party of no.
They spent the last 25
So there you go. Republicans, they said no to this and they said no to that because of they just want to win and they just hate me and they said no. And now the Democrats are doing the same thing. Now Chuck Schumer wants to do the same thing. They want to block confirmation hearings. They are attacking and bashing Jeff Sessions any chance they get. And by the way, Obama is reported saying that he wants the Democrats to make sure they don't repeal Obamacare. In fact, now the Democrats are planning some kind of talkathon in Congress that they want to broadcast on Facebook Live where they're talking for hours about how we can't repeal Obamacare. It's the same thing. It's just politics. It's the way it's been contentious. If you read history, if you understand history, you know that this stuff happens. It's just the way it is. We're a very divided country right now, and that's what's going to happen. Now, hopefully we don't get too divided. We go to civil war or something. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm just saying we're very divided. I mean, there was times. Think about the history. I just went over Woodrow Wilson and talked about the history there, how divided we were then. Think about, there was a time where there was Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton. They actually had a duel because of how divided Congress and the country was. And Alexander Hamilton was killed in a duel because of division. I don't think we're that bad. So it's just one of those things. But now the Democrats are the party of no, and I guess it's going to be, and then, of course, now all of a sudden Hollywood, who would accuse Republicans of being racist, and they're the party of no because they're racist. I guess now all of a sudden that they're going to support Congress. Congress needs to stop what Trump's going to do. Oh boy, I just love hypocrisy. Don't you just love hypocrisy? 407-916-5400, text to 23680. We are also on Facebook Live as well. I want to get into some of this whole Trump Chrysler Fiat thing and the latest on that, and a lot more to get to. This is Beyond Reason Radio.
If you like Beyond Reason Radio, well, make sure to show it by liking the Facebook page at facebook.com/Beyond Reason Radio.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is Michael Yaffee, your voice of truth, the conscience in your ear, telling you the difference between right and wrong. Join the movement of Beyond Reason Radio. This is Beyond Reason Radio. Make sure to send me a friend request on Facebook, or you can follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. So Trump is once again, Donald Trump, president-elect, you all know who he is, of course. Trump is once again taking credit for moves that businesses are doing to, quote, create jobs in the United States. We talked a little bit earlier about Chrysler Fiat. Now, Chrysler Fiat announced today that they will be investing $1 billion in creating 2,000 new manufacturing jobs in Michigan. Now, they said they were already planning on doing this before Trump's election, but the CEO, Mark Fields, said he also likes pro-growth policies that Trump is planning for the future. So he's encouraged by Trump's pro-growth policies, which helps him even more to want to invest this money. I have no problem with that at all. I think that's great. That's why we need pro-growth policies. That's why we need tax cuts. And by the way, there is a report that Congress is going to work on tax cuts this week. Paul Ryan and the Republicans in Congress really want to reform the tax code, and there's going to be starting work on that very soon. Hopefully, that will look good. Who knows? Congress says a lot of things, and then what they come up with is a lot of times craziness. But he said that he wants to create jobs here in the U.S., and Trump is basically taking credit for that. So that's fine. Like I said, who knows if Trump's really, to take credit for that, if they were already planning on it. But there you go. It still makes me nervous that Trump gets involved with these individual businesses. It really made me question a lot of things when he took credit, when he bashed Toyota. Because Toyota they had a plant in Mexico. They wanted to build cars and bring some into the U.S., the Corolla. And Trump bashed them. You need to build that plant in the U.S. And I'm thinking, okay. It's one thing to bash American companies for going overseas, but this is not an American company you're bashing. This company is a Japanese company. And that Japanese company has provided millions of jobs, probably, at least thousands of jobs, in this country already when they did not have to do that because they're not an American company. So when you start threatening foreign companies from foreign countries because they're not building plants here, that could create a lot of problems because that could start a trade war, definitely, and it could encourage foreign countries to say the same thing about American companies. All American companies have to build the plants in the foreign country. You don't want to do that. But there you go. So the next story on this is Trump apparently had a meeting with Jack Ma. Now, he is a Chinese businessman, and he is the head of the Alibaba Group, which is a big internet company. Now, Jack Ma said that he wants to focus on small business, and he wants to invest a lot of money and create over 1 million jobs over 5 years. Now, from the little research I did on Alibaba, apparently they're an internet company that sells a lot of goods and services over the internet in China.
Sort of like on the scope of eBay.
Yeah, exactly, on the scope of eBay. Now, they've had a lot of problems because there's a lot of counterfeit stuff they're selling on their site, and they have not been very good at keeping, property rights and counterfeit from not being on that site. So, here, let me play the audio really quick. Trump and Jack Ma came out of that meeting, and this is what they said right after that meeting.
Well, yes, we had a great meeting. It's jobs. You just saw what happened with Fiat, where they're going to build a massive plant in the United States, in Michigan. And we're very happy. And Jack and I are going to do some great things. Small business, right?
We'll focus on small business.
So there you go. It was not very much to talk about there, but Trump, it was kind of funny, too, the whole press conference. He comes out and he wants to talk about his meeting with Jack Ma, and the reporters immediately ask him about Russian hacking and confirmations in Congress. They didn't even want to talk. And Trump's like, we'll talk about that at a later date. Let's talk about the thing ahead. That's why the people get so frustrated at the media, because they do stuff like that. It's, it's just they don't understand there's a time and place for things. But here's my biggest issue with this as well, and it shows a little bit of hypocrisy here. I'm glad they can create 1 million jobs here. That's fantastic. I think that's great. This is how free trade works, because what this company wants to do, what Jack Ma wants to do, what Alibaba wants to do, is they want to be able to have American goods on this site that they can export to China, because they see China as a giant export market, which a lot of these companies see China and India as a giant export market. That's why they want to keep free trade in place, because there's a lot of potential buyers and consumers in those two countries that, say, American companies like Ford and other stuff can sell to those countries. So if you start having a trade war with tariffs and everything, you might think, oh, well, that means I'll focus the trade deficit. That means we'll create jobs here. But you could create high tariffs on the other end, and our American companies will not be able to export to those other countries. And that's what creates a very big problem. But this company, Alibaba, he wants to invest these jobs so that they can sell American goods on this site to all those Chinese consumers. But this is what I'm saying. This is why you do not want to get into these trade battles with these countries, because that means it's a little bit hypocritical. Because if it was on the other end, Trump would want tariffs. If Americans are building overseas, or if Americans are exporting all their products, he wants to create tariffs. But this is a Chinese company who's going to do the opposite. They're going to build here, and then they're going to sell to China. And because of low tariffs on both ends, this is a possibility. This is why free trade works. This is why a lot of companies get very nervous when you get against free trade, because we always forget about the export market. It's one of the only things that saved Ford. Ford was having a lot of issues. They thought they were going to have to be bailed out by the government. But one of the things that really saved Ford in the long run was their export market, because they were very big in places like Europe. So it's just this is a very, very, very tight rope,
slippery slope,
tight rope. He's walking in. It sounds good. And by the way, I don't really expect to win this argument. I know I've talked about it a lot. I mean, the Republicans in Congress, it's very hard to see that they would ever pass some kind of big tariff on the border. I just don't see that happening, even with Trump as president. But I don't really expect to win this argument, because the fact is the majority of the American people see the headline. They see the headline of Chinese businessman creates million jobs, talks with Trump. So they give credit to Trump. They see the headline, Toyota manufacturing in Mexico. Trump's mad at them. They say, oh, well, those jobs should be here. They see the headline. Chrysler Fiat building new plants in Michigan because of Trump pressure, creating 1,000 jobs. They see the headline. They're not looking at macroeconomics. They're not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at everything. They see the headline. It's a convenient headline. It sounds good.
Sure.
And I don't really see me ever winning this argument, at least not anytime soon.
The devil is in the details, and a lot of people don't look at the details. They look at the big headlines, like you say.
Well, yeah, and we've talked about this on the show before, where it's all about perception over reality. The perception is that China and India are taking all our jobs. That's the perception that's out there. The reality is, when you look at the facts, it's not China who's taking most of our jobs, or Mexico. It's automation. And then you say, well, we have all these big trade deficits. Well, a lot of that had to do with oil, which is changing. But in terms of NAFTA, our manufacturing output, even though manufacturing jobs have gone down, our manufacturing output has gone up. So that says we're manufacturing more than ever on a big scale. But like I said, you can't talk to someone who lives in the Rust Belt, who sees a plant closing, and tell them the facts and tell them the macroeconomic realities. They don't care. And I understand that. I get it. It's a very powerful thing. I grew up in Orlando, Florida. Orlando, Florida has been a very growing economy. It's very part of the global economy. I'm a millennial, so I've never worked in a factory or anything. So I'm definitely a product of my generation. So it's harder for me to relate. But I totally get that. Politically, this is probably a losing argument for me. Politically, it's just going to be, like you said, the devil in the details, and we'll have to see what the ramifications are. And I'm worried that the ramifications are not going to be what you think they are. By the way, I'm also very worried about China. I just want to mention that kind of on a side note. I've been doing a lot of reading on China. China's economy is not doing very well. Mm-hmm. They've had some major stock market crashes. A lot of the so-called jobs, the manufacturing jobs, are actually leaving China now, and they're going to places like Taiwan, Vietnam, and other countries. So China's economy could be collapsing. Now, what happens anytime when a country like that, their economy starts collapsing? Well, when you look at history, usually to counteract it, they build up the military. That could be a big reason why. It happened in Hitler's Germany, to revive the economy. Mm-hmm. In Mussolini's Italy, happened in the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union, they didn't focus on the overall economy. They just built up the military to have this big pride. So China, their economy could be collapsing because they're still a communist country, and that can't work. They add some capitalism here and there, but the balance is very hard to portray. But their economy could be collapsing. So what's going to happen in response to that is they're going to build up their military. And usually, just like Japan did in World War II and other countries did in World War II, it could be very concerning because then they're going to want to maybe start taking territory, or they're going to want to have influence like they are in the China Sea right now. They're going to really want to build up their military in response to this. So I'm extremely worried about China as it is. It's kind of a side note. It was just something I was thinking about this week, but there are more and more reports out that China's economy is not doing very well right now. They're not growing like they used to be, and the middle class there is not doing as well as they thought they would be by now, and all this other stuff. Pollution's also a big problem, and you have companies now leaving China and going to other places, and this could be very bad because the military is going to step in, and they're going to want to take over. Whew, I feel like we got into a lot of deep stuff today, Tom Benson. I feel like my brain went into some deep economic thoughts. I've been reading too much on this stuff lately, but let's see. Hopefully, I hope that made sense and nobody got lost. But this is Orlando Smart Talk Radio, so we have to get in that. 407-916-5400, text to 23680. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Beyond Reason R. We'll be right back with a story so beyond reason it will leave you flabbergasted. This is Beyond Reason Radio.
Subscribe to the Beyond Reason podcast today on your Stitcher app and hear the voice of reason anytime.
So I don't know if you're all ready for this story. My good friend Amanda Presaguacamo from the Daily Wire wrote up this story on the Daily Wire, and I was unfortunately eating some fruit during this story because I don't want to get sick, so I had to get some vitamin C. So I ate a lot of fruit today. Everyone around me is getting sick. It is surrounding me, and I'm trying very hard not to get sick.
You're a smart man.
So I don't know if it's gonna happen, but this story it's not really a story you want to read, when you're eating. And, well, let's just say, I do stories so beyond reason, they'll leave you flabbergasted. This is definitely going to leave you flabbergasted, disgusted, angry. Should I read the headline? You ready? I've been building. You're not ready, Tom. You're not.
Go ahead.
You're not going to like it. You're not going to. Okay.
I'll grit my teeth.
Report. Caitlyn Jenner.
Bruce
Jenner.
I think I know this.
To pose nude.
Oh, no.
Like Kim Kardashian.
Oh.
I kid you not. This is the story.
I understand they're going to use the photos to taper off peeping Toms.
That'll do it.
Yes, it would.
Here it is. I love how Amanda writes this up, by the way. Caitlyn Jenner wants to break the internet like Kim K. I told her not only will it break the internet, it broke me. It scarred my soul in a negative way when I heard this story. Why? Why, God, why? Jenner plans on posing nude sometime this year, just as his stepdaughter Kim Kardashian, I forgot they were related, stepdaughter Kim Kardashian West did on the viral Paper magazine cover in 2014, says a new report from Naughty Gossip. Caitlyn Jenner had a slow 2016, but I'm going to say he is planning on a major comeback in 2017 with his, this is very hard to do, first ever naked photo shoot.
Oh,
man. I love how Amanda's great. She said, apparently, this is how Amanda wrote the next sentence. Apparently, Jenner is excited to show off his new body. See, she gets the disgusted face on Tom Benson. I can't make this stuff up. Kate wants to do something along the lines of what Kim did on the cover of Paper magazine. No one has worked harder than Kate to get the body she wants, and naturally, she wants to show it off. Sources tell the gossip outlet. She will also use the explosive cover to help her return to TV in 2017 after her solo show was canceled. I forgot about that. I guess
that's why it was canceled. Everybody forgot about it.
Did they actually do episodes of that, or was it canceled?
Oh, yeah. It was on, it was what? Call Me Kate, I think it was called.
Yeah. Ugh. It's just, there's something disturbing to me in a society that praises this as beautiful and heroic.
Or culture.
It's it's disturbing when there's a lot of evidence that's a mental illness. She will also use the explosive cover to help her return to TV in 2017. I said that Kate has learned from the experience and wants the new show to be more silly and fun. And disgusting, apparently. Like the Kardashian show. It will focus less on her being a transsexual and more on being a single girl.
Oh, no.
I used the girl very lightly there.
Well, first of all, he's...
So you don't even know what to say.
He's over 60 years old. He's not a girl. Or whatever. In more ways than one.
It would be an elderly woman, you're right. But he didn't have... I don't think he had the full surgery. I think he still has...
Yeah. All the parts.
Oh, so gross. Single girl that wants to date and have a great time. Jenner was dominant athlete in the 1970s, taking home the Olympic gold medal in the decathlon in 76 while going by the name Bruce. The former husband of reality star and momager Kris Jenner. A momager, I like that. Kris Jenner decided to, like mom and manager.
Sure.
Just in case you didn't catch that.
Yeah, I got it.
Just making sure.
Momager.
Kris Jenner decided to publicly transition into a woman in 2015, becoming an instant media darling and gracing the cover of Vanity Fair to officially announce his new first name, Caitlyn.
But he's a Republican, and he's a conservative.
I mean, I guess we'll take what we can get, but Jenner, a man, was named Glamour's Woman of the Year in 2015 and took home ESPN's 2015 Arthur Ashe Award for Courage. How is having surgery courage?
That's more of a story of Sports Illustrated having courage to give the award to Jenner.
Yeah, actually it was ESPN, but you're right.
It was all publicity.
By the way, edging out courageous college basketball superstar Lauren Hill, a cancer research activist, an eventual 19-year-old brain cancer victim. Decided to give it to Caitlyn Jenner because he's so courageous.
It generates more headlines.
Because he paid millions of dollars to have surgery that he chose to do and to transform himself to look like a disgusting girl. By the way, have you ever seen the show That 70s Show? There was an episode of That 70s Show where he was having trouble doing the monkey bars or whatever, the main character.
Sure.
And the girl there sarcastically goes, "Oh, you're a regular Bruce Jenner." I was like, you were more right on that comment than you were. That was before any of this came out years ago.
Sure.
You were right on that comment. I caught that. I thought that was funny. So there you go. I mean, the show, I told Amanda, I sent her a message. I was like, well, the show that I do is called Beyond Reason. And this story is pretty beyond reason. And I was like, thanks. I think. So I told her, I was like, thank you for this story. I think. All right, this has been another edition of Beyond Reason Radio. If you missed any of the show, make sure to check out the podcast. Anywhere podcasts are available, you can download the Beyond Reason Radio app as well, or you can send me a friend request on Facebook and check out the Facebook Live video there as well. I will be back on later this week, and of course, you can catch me producing and co-hosting Good Morning Orlando every morning on this station, News Radio 102.5 WFLA. I appreciate you all joining me, and I will catch you guys next time.
That nothing comes from indifference. I look inside.